You feel it before you even finish checking your pockets. A flash of heat. A tightening in your chest. Your eyes start scanning the room, the couch cushions, the counter, the table, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet alarm starts going off. Not a metaphorical alarm, a real one. One that your nervous system has been running for a very long time. You lost your phone, and your body is treating it like a threat to your survival. That reaction probably feels embarrassing once the phone turns up between the seat cushions. But here's the thing. The panic you just felt was not a glitch. It was not weakness. It was one of the oldest, most finely tuned biological systems in the human body, firing exactly the way it was designed to, just aimed at a rectangle you have owned for 3 years. Why would evolution wire you to panic over a smartphone? The answer starts roughly 300,000 years ago, and it has almost nothing to do with technology. Imagine your ancestor, not a medieval farmer, not an ancient Egyptian. Go back further. A human being standing on an open grassland in East Africa, surrounded by tall grass that moves in the wind, carrying no weapon sharper than a sharpened stick. That human had one job above all others: do not get separated from the group, because separated meant dead. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent decades studying early human social structure and found that humans evolved inside tight-knit bands of around 150 individuals. These were not optional social arrangements, they were survival infrastructure. Your group was your food supply, your early warning system, your protection against predators, your everything. Lose the group, lose your life. It was that simple, and evolution treated it that way. So your brain built a dedicated alarm system for it. Neuroscientists call it the social pain network. And here is where it gets strange. The parts of your brain that light up when you feel social disconnection are the same parts that process physical pain. Not similar parts. The same parts. A study published in 2003 by Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA had participants play a simple computer game where they were slowly excluded from a group, and the brain scans showed something remarkable. The anterior cingulate cortex, the region most associated with the unpleasantness of physical pain, activated just as strongly from social rejection as it did from a stubbed toe. Your brain does not distinguish cleanly between a broken bone and being left out. It processes both as damage, as threat, as something that must be fixed immediately. Now bring that ancient system into your kitchen on a Tuesday morning. Your phone is not just a phone. Your brain does not experience it as a device. Over time, through thousands of tiny interactions, a text from someone you love, a notification that someone responded, a quick scroll that reminded you what your friends are doing tonight, your brain has built a deep associative map. Your phone has become a proxy for your tribe. Psychologist Larry Rosen, who has studied technology's effect on anxiety for over 2 decades, coined the term I disorder to describe the way smartphone dependency mirrors the anxiety patterns your brain would have once reserved for actual social threats. What he found was not that people are addicted to their phones in a chemical sense. It is that the phone has become a stand-in for something your brain considers non-negotiable: connection, social awareness, and the constant low-level reassurance that you are still part of the group. When the phone disappears, the proxy disappears, and your nervous system does not think, I misplaced a device. It thinks, I cannot reach my tribe. And it starts sending signals. Your cortisol rises. Your attention narrows. Your body moves into a mild version of the same threat response it would use if you heard a predator in the grass. You start scanning the room the same way your ancestor would have scanned the savannah. There is a name for the specific anxiety people feel when separated from their phones. Researcher Alejandro Lleras at the University of Illinois has studied what happens to cognitive function when a phone is simply nearby but unavailable, not taken away, just out of reach. The results were striking. Even when people knew where their phone was, the mere fact that they could not interact with it consumed measurable cognitive resources. The brain kept running a background process, checking, monitoring, maintaining low-level alert. Your attention was split before you even picked up the phone. Now imagine what happens when you cannot find it at all. The background process escalates. What was a quiet hum becomes a siren. Your working memory starts pulling resources away from whatever you were doing, the email you were writing, the conversation you were having, the breakfast you were making, and redirects them toward one single task. Find it now. This is not a personality flaw. This is ancient priority management doing exactly what it was built to do. There is another layer here that almost nobody talks about. It is not just about connection. It is about information. Early humans were information hungry in a very specific way, not curious for the sake of curiosity, hungry in the survival sense. Knowing where the water source was, knowing which plants were safe, knowing that the sound you heard last night was a hyena and not something worse, that information kept you alive. Neuroscientist Irving Biederman at the University of Southern California found that the human brain releases a small burst of opioid-like reward every time it successfully processes new and meaningful information. Understanding something feels good, not metaphorically, chemically. Your brain runs on information the same way it runs on food, and your phone is the most information-dense object in the history of your species. In a single swipe, you can access weather, news, what someone you care about said an hour ago, how a situation you were worried about has developed. The phone is not just a social proxy. It is a live sensory feed for a brain that evolved to be constantly interpreting its environment. Lose that feed, and two ancient threat systems fire at once: social disconnection, environmental blindness. Both of them, simultaneously, because of a device that has been in your pocket for maybe 5 years. Now sit with that for a second. The next time the panic hits, try to notice it, not to stop it. You cannot really stop it, because it is not coming from the rational part of your brain. It is coming from something far older. But you can name it. You can watch the ancient machinery running in a modern kitchen. You can recognize that what your body is doing made complete sense for 299,995 of the years your species has existed. It is only in the last 5 that it started firing at the wrong target. And naming that, seeing it clearly, does something interesting to the feeling. It does not vanish, but it shrinks. Because the part of your brain that understands context, the prefrontal cortex, the most recently evolved part of the human brain, can look at the panic and say, I know what this is. This is old code, running in a new world. That is not a cure, but it is something your ancestor never had. A body full of ancient alarms, and a mind just modern enough to hear them clearly. So tonight, when your hand reaches automatically for your phone the moment there is a pause in the room, you now know what that reaching really is. It is the same impulse that once kept a human being turned toward the firelight and away from the dark. The details changed. The wiring did not.